Welcome to the Elbonian Challenge final voting. There were two teams and two very similar solutions. Both proposals recommended a split hybrid blended schedule where students were in school for part of the time and learning online part of the time. Both employed the use of volunteers in various ways. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Both made use of open educational resources. Both chose an industry-leading learning management system. They were different, but both are very common, stable, and trusted learning management systems in education today. Both suggested that volunteers be used as tutors and caregivers specifically. I'll talk more about that in a moment as well. And both proposals suggested using Elbonian teachers to supplement the Deep Haven teaching force. So if they're so similar, how do we possibly vote on this? Well, let's talk about Team A. Team A suggested using a combination of existing and open educational resources for the curriculum. We thought that use of existing curriculum was important because it would save teachers time as opposed to having to find all new curriculum for the online portion. Team A suggests that curriculum that could be easily converted for online use, do so. Curation was addressed by Team A. Both teams talked about the need for curation, but only Team A actually went into a little bit of a detail about what the curation would be, why it was important. And in essence, you need curation when you're going to use lots of online resources for a large school system. Otherwise, you won't really know what the quality of the content is that's being used, and teachers may start doing double work. If you have a single place for content to be stored, organized, curated, perhaps even voted on as for its strength and its quality, and then you could eventually fine-tune the content repository to have the best of the best content in there. Team A really showed a clear concern for the whole student, for the whole Elbonian student, particularly the emotional health of the student. Both teams suggested the use of social workers, but Team A really talked about the need to help these students who are in a traumatic situation. And this is important not just in this immigration scenario, but in other scenarios as well. There's research that shows that students living in urban areas with lots of crime experience the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder without ever having been in a war zone. Team A really paid a lot of attention to the who and how of volunteers. Both teams talked about volunteers, absolutely, but Team A really went a little bit above and beyond, finding examples of school districts who are making a large use of volunteers. The teaching laboratory for the support of the teachers. That was something Dr. Jones really enjoyed and appreciated. She thought that was great that these teachers now have a place to go to practice these new teaching skills, these hybrid and online teaching skills. Mr. Rowe really appreciated how you integrated business and the community in the solution. And we all liked how you sort of better explained the how behind maintaining the teacher work hours. You talked about one-to-many lectures and demonstrations and peer review. You specifically talked about supporting at-risk and traumatized students. Both teams talked about supporting special needs students, but we appreciated that you talked about at-risk and traumatized. The assessment strategy was very robust and clear. You took a long time, obviously, and a lot of energy considering how you would assess students. The remediation, you spoke about remediation loops there, where you said if the student fails the assessment, what would happen next? And that was sort of unique to your proposal. And then the crowdsourcing, that was very innovative. We hadn't really considered that on our team, crowdsourcing for fundraising. In fact, none of us had ever heard of those websites before, so thank you for sharing those resources. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses, right? There were a couple of warts on your proposal. One is that you looked at this as a temporary fix, right? As opposed to a fundamental change in how the school district might move forward with education. You spent a little too much time in your presentation focusing on the details of that peer review tool. It would have been sufficient to say, we know we need this. This is why we think it's going to be good. Here's the research to back it up. We've found at least one tool that'll do it. We're just not sure how much it's going to cost yet. Right? It could have been a little higher level than it was. Training and support. You really covered this very well for everyone except for students. This is a brand new way of learning and going to school for both the Elbonian and Deep Haven students. They're going to need a lot of support. And so I didn't see student training or student support listed there from an academic model standpoint. Elementary face-to-face. This was the big issue that we had with your proposal, Team A. You say that elementary students will be face-to-face. Well, where? We've already talked about that there's no more room. And who? Who are the teachers who are going to teach twice as many elementary students? So it's something we would need to consider if we were to move forward with Team A. Student-driven requests for help and tutoring. The fact that you're relying on students to reach out when they need help was a little concerning. Experience of myself and Dr. Jones shows that students won't reach out. By and large, if they get stuck, they get stuck. Or if they reach out, it'll be to their parents or other students who really are not well equipped to help them. In some cases, they are. But we think it would be better if you would look at your proposal from the standpoint of being more proactive about identifying students who are struggling and offering help. All right, so what was different about Team B's proposal? Team B, you clearly understood the need to sell this solution, right? This is a massive change for the Deep Haven School District and for the children and families of Deep Haven and Elbonia. And you really took the time to talk about why this was important and to talk about how this was an opportunity, not a problem. And we thought that was really important, and that kind of attitude would serve you well for the change management that's going to come with this kind of project. And again, speaking to that, you talked about this as a larger change. This is not a problem, it's an opportunity to sort of turn education on its head and look to the future, and this is better, and that we really appreciated that positive outlook. Your choice of Canvas LMS, we thought that was strong. Schoology is fine. It's a fine LMS, but it's not your traditional LMS. Maybe that's good, but we felt more comfortable with something that is held more true to a traditional learning management system. We think that Canvas is better suited in an organizational standpoint to support teaching and learning. Computer scoring and the use of TAs. Your proposal was very explicit about how you use computer scoring. Team A talked about the same thing, but also how you would use teaching assistants from Deep Haven University. And you focus on Deep Haven University a bit. We thought that was smart, as well as the use of the Elbonian teachers and social workers. So the areas of your proposal that we thought were a little weak, the 2 days at school, and then you said 2 days somewhere else. You were very vague as to what would happen to students during those 2 other days. The 5th day, reaching out for help and students can schedule. Again, your proposal suggested that students would say, I need help, as opposed to being more proactive about identifying students who need help by looking at their activity in class or online. Same number of students, which was a little confusing. What you meant, we think, was that the class sizes in a physical class would not grow because students would be sort of taking turns, right, on every other day. But then you talked about how teachers won't have to work extra hours, but they would have additional planning time. And we were just a little confused as to how that would possibly happen. We know you talked about TAs, but you weren't sort of explicit about saying how you're going to employ volunteer staff to take the load off the teachers to find that extra time. Open to adding arts into the curriculum. You talked about, encouraging it. We felt, and particularly Ms. Raymond felt, that while you showed a great use of the arts in your prototype, that in your proposal it should have been a little more strongly stated that it would have been mandated, so to speak, that teachers constantly look for ways to integrate the arts into the curriculum, Not necessarily on every single day, but that it would be more of a mandate that that be done. Self-motivating project-based learning. Again, we felt that students may not be motivated enough, as motivated as you think, simply because you say it's project-based learning. And the project-based learning that you demonstrated was very much focused on assessments and practice. It was not the kind of project-based learning where a student might say, I can go and study whatever I want, relate it to this topic, and so then it's really meaningful to me, and so I really want to do it. We didn't see that in the prototype, and we didn't see it really spelled out that way in the proposal. Curated curriculum, we talked about this on the previous slide. Team A was very clear about what they would use to curate. You just sort of said it would be curated, but didn't address it further. And then the professional development. That free course is a great resource. It was a really good find. However, there was no talk of continued support. And we really feel that these teachers are going to need continued support throughout this Elbonian challenge. In the end, this was almost too close to call. Both teams were neck and neck. You saw the QUOP scores, right? They were barely, one week one team would be ahead, then the next week the other team, but never more than a few points apart. In fact, when I looked at the rubrics, the collective scores were 3 points apart out of 40. So very, very close to call, but we had to make a decision.
So this is it. I and the other judges, Dr. Jones, Mr. Rowe, Miss Raymond, have all reviewed your proposals and presentations several times and have taken deep dives into your course prototypes. I have everyone here on a video call. Is everyone ready to talk about the results?
All of the presentations were commendable, but one stood out. It demonstrated a clear understanding of the challenge and proposed an effective, engaging, and equitable instructional model. The prototype course demonstrated how they would apply instructional technology in the instruction, assessment, and remediation of students, ethically and equitably.
The consummate professional as always, Dr. Jones. Mr. Rowe?
I'm no education expert, but all of the proposals seemed well put together and tried to address the challenge at hand. After reviewing the rubric we were provided, however, I have chosen the proposal that I think best meets the needs of the city of Deep Haven and the Elbonian immigrants.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. And last but certainly not least, Miss Raymond.
I've been sent the proposals from all of the teams and have had a chance to review them. Speaking on behalf of the Elbonian people, I am humbled by the amount of time and attention each team took in approaching how to help us. I know I have to choose one proposal to be the winner, and I am ready to choose.
Excellent. I want to thank the judges for lending their time to evaluate the proposals. I appreciate that you took it so seriously. And of course, I want to thank the teams who submitted proposals. Your energy, passion, expertise, and true concern for the children of Deep Haven and Elbonia was evident throughout this project. Now let's hear the votes.
I vote for Team A.
My vote is Team B.
I vote for the proposal from Team A.
Thank you all for your votes. In a way, the final decision is this one, my vote. If I vote for Team A, then Team A's proposal wins. If I vote for Team B, then it's a split decision, and the mayor has to get involved. In the end, my vote is for
Team A. So why Team A? Collectively, all of the judges felt that the choice to combine existing curriculum with open educational resources would be very valuable in the amount of time it would save. Plus, Team A addressed that whole curation issue, and we thought that was important. That whole child perspective, not just looking at the academics, but looking at the entire health of the child, really spoke to us as well. The clearer plans on how to launch a massive volunteer force, because that's what this solution is going to take. That snowball professional development we felt was a stroke of genius. Dr. Jones loved it. She feels like that would not just shorten the professional development time and the amount of resources required, but also by doing the train-the-trainer kind of approach, you're encouraging teachers to really own this new model. The teaching laboratory as well, obviously, I talked about before. And the detail you provided about how you would serve twice as many students in the same time period with the same number of resources, but the exception is the elementary school. All the judges felt that while we are accepting your proposal, you will need to do additional work to explain the elementary school part. The clear assessment strategy, again, was highly recommended by the team and appreciated, as well as the innovative fundraising ideas. So bravo, Team A, and congratulations.